I saw this game on Steam called Tiny Bunny, and I had to play it. Warning, this game contains offensive language and scenes of physical and psychological violence. Proceed with caution. How could you not want to play a game with a bunny like this? Let's check our settings. Full screen looks fine. Skip everything. Read text. Speed, auto. I don't know what any of that means. Voice? Do we have voice acting in this? Let's find out. I did not expect voice acting. The wind clawed at my window all night long. Let's see, auto, menu in. Alright, so let's try auto. Maybe, no, what button do I press to proceed? Forward. This button does not highlight. Hide. Backlog. I mean, it's got to be this one. Alright, here we go. The wind clawed at my window all night. It wandered the fields and howled like a hungry beast. An endless song weaved from all sorts of voices, shrill, gentle, sneery, twined in the air. They were shouting and laughing, and arguing about something. Someone was running through the snow while casting long shadows that would occasionally creep close to my bed. Our house had a mind of its own, the creaky old mind of a building that had seen a lot in its days and was seemingly trying to share its wisdom with the inhabitants. The lonely house faced the forest, and the dark green thicket gazed back with its hollow eyes, rustling, whizzing, swaying back and forth. One could come out and stand at the edge of the forest to reassure themselves. There was nobody behind the crooked trees. Fuzzy silhouettes swaying in the wind couldn't possibly do any harm. It's just a play of light and shadow. Just a play. I knew it was just my imagination. I was already 12 after all. Still. Ooh, I see eyes. Episode 1, The Owl Will Arrive.
Убери книгу немедленно.
Hey, put away your book. Wait, what happened to English? Did I not select English? I'm sure I selected English. Well, whatever.
Сколько раз говорила, не читай за столом. Вред.
How many times have I told you not to read at the table? It's bad for your health. Look at how slouched you are. Hide. What am I clicking? Oh, hiding the book. I didn't protest and put the book about Conan the Barbarian aside. Conan the Barbarian, not Conan the Barbarian. Ever since Conan O'Brien came into our lives, I've never been able to pronounce Conan the Barbarian the same. I was stuck on a line I couldn't understand after reading it 3 times anyway. Olya had already finished her breakfast and was munching on some cookies. She was so enthusiastic she almost looked like your typical girl from commercials.
Пока не съешь, из-за стола не встанешь.
You're not going anywhere until you finish all of it. I, on the other hand, was still trying to drill a hole in the plate with my eyes, as if it would make the porridge disappear. Hazy anxiousness welled up inside, all because of the previous sleepless night, the black forest around our house, and the gloomy wind. The longer I waited, the colder the lumpy white substance became. It looked like a jellyfish from the Cousteau Odyssey. I love that show, the Cousteau Odyssey. I wonder how horrifying the bottom of the ocean is, or how cold the black forest is at night. The spoon fell out of my hand. Mom showered me with a cold glare from her green eyes.
Что я говорила?
What did I just say?
Я достану.
I'll get it. I had 10 seconds to catch my breath before battling the nasty porridge once again. I felt around for the spoon. What is this, carved on the other side of the table? Karina. Ha, that's my mom's name. I guess she carved it out with something pointy when she was little. She sure was a rascal damaging the furniture like that. She would scold me for a week if I did something similar, though. Should I remind her about it? No, she's been in a bit of a bad mood lately. I imagined her being my age, sitting under this table. I wonder, was Mom afraid of the dark back then? Or the sounds coming from the attic? Or the thick forest? I imagined my grandma coming into my little mom's room, sitting at the edge of her bed, where Olya sleeps nowadays, and saying this in her soft, smooth voice.
Тайга — особое место, дети.
Taiga is a special place, little girl.
Она к тебе присматривается.
It's watching you closely, sniffing you out,
Словно хочет
trying to
понять,
discern
что за
what
зверь
kind of
такой.
beast you are.
Понравишься,
If you're a
беде
good
не
sword,
бросит.
it won't abandon you in times of trouble.
А будешь
But
проказничать,
if you're a bad apple,
схватит за бочок.
it'll grab you
И
by the
утащит
side,
с собой
drag
по
you
земле.
under the ground.
Тут и дело.
And that would be it. Grandma was caring. She never fought with anybody. Never yelled, never swore. Those were the times without the maddening screams until late at night, without smashed dishes and mutual accusations. Our parents used to love each other back then. I remember listening in on one of their conversations by chance. They were talking about Grandma getting prepared for her funeral. She had enough. She had already bought a casket, and she called it her cute funeral box. It waited for its time in the closet, patiently. It was black, upholstered with meat-colored material on the inside. I saw it when my grandma was getting buried. The house didn't change since the time she was alive. Only all of the photos were gone. Glass-covered pictures with gray faces of my ancestors. They all had a dead but watchful look in their eyes. I crawled out from under the table. Olya was done with her cookies and was looking at my share like a sly woodland critter. I turned my gaze toward the frosted window. There were a lot of dark pines outside, but they didn't grab my attention. The pattern of frost formed a picture on the glass.
Оля, гляди, лиса!
Oh yeah, look, it's a fox.
Где?
Where? It looked almost like those optical illusion thingies they put on the back of student notebooks. A mixture of lines at first glance, but if you blur your vision a little bit and look under a certain angle,
Да не на улице, на стекле.
not outside, on the window.
Смотри, вот нос, вот.
Look, here's the nose, and here's...
Ну-ка, доедай.
Hey, eat up.
Да, сейчас.
Yes, just a moment.
Я ничего не вижу.
I don't see anything.
Живо.
Hurry up, there's not much left.
А, вот.
Ah, there it is.
Похоже.
But it still doesn't look like one.
А я говорю, похоже.
And I'm telling you it does.
Не-а.
Nuh-uh,
Похоже.
it does.
Прекратите!
Stop it! These kids, I swear. Now I couldn't see the fox either. It disappeared. Went away. Only the frosty patterns, similar to stretched out nettle leaves, kept creeping up the glass. My dad entered the kitchen with long measured steps. I want to have a beard like his when I grow up. Mom would always ask jokingly, "Come on, shave it off, it stings." This was so long ago. Nowadays, rumbling doors and witty comebacks were an everyday occurrence. Olya always covers her ears whenever she hears something like, "What's the point in all of this?" through the wall. "It's all for your sake," Dad would reply. "For the sake of the family." "It's all for your sake," Dad would reply. "For the sake of our family." I always caught every sound in fear of hearing the most dreaded, the deadliest word that started with a D. D-I-V-O. I don't even want to finish it. It was scary to imagine that me and my little sister could be torn apart and taken into two different families.
Да что твоя лиса? Вот у меня...
Anyway, your fox is nothing. I have an owl on my window.
Опять ты со своей...
You and your owl talk again.
Так ты же вчера мне...
You said you believed me just yesterday.
Никто ключи от машины.
Has anybody seen my car keys?
Вроде оставлял.
I remember leaving them on the windowsill.
Вроде.
Right.
Вроде оставлял.
Maybe you did, and maybe not.
Вроде взрослый мужчина.
You're a grown man, a father of two, and still...
Перестань, пожалуйста, Карина.
Karina, please, stop.
Дай мне спокойно
Just let me get ready in peace.
В корзине твои ключи.
Your keys are in the basket near the phone.
Огромное тебе человеческое
Well,
спасибо.
thank you very much.
Антон, ешь быстрее, а то как...
Anton, stop making a martyr out of yourself and finish eating already.
А сова?
But the owl.
Не было там
There
никакой
was no
совы.
owl.
Была!
But there was one.
Глазюки
It had
огромные!
giant glowing eyes. Olya sprung up from the chair and placed her hands on her little face, imitating a pair of eyes with her fingers, the size of an apple each.
В прошлом году бабай в шкафу.
Last year you had
Сова.
Babai in your closet, and now this owl? Oh, we have a glossary entry. Yeah. Babai, in Slavic folklore, is a nocturnal spirit used by parents to threaten their ill-behaving children. Oh, neat.
Но я же видела!
But I saw it! Olya shifted her gaze back and forth from Dad to Mom to me, but couldn't find any support.
А ты не думала подружиться?
Have you thought about befriending it?
Вымышленными
You know, like
мышами
feeding it with
покормить?
imaginary mice?
Не подначивай ребенка.
Don't bully our girl.
Просто мала еще.
She's just afraid to sleep alone because she's still little. Olya powdered her lips in rebellion and rushed into the hallway. The staircase that led to the second floor creaked. Mom gave Dad a strict look. Oh, that look in her eyes. It's so uncomfortable to be pinned under it. Dad just snorted in reply and left, ringing with the keys he just found. A minute had passed and the theme song from The Little Mermaid echoed through the house. It was stored on incredibly worn-out cassette tape, which Dad already had to glue together once. It's so easy to fix objects, by gluing them back together, for example. But how do you fix a relationship? Mom moved to the living room and I was left alone, anxiously stealing glances at the window. Olya had trouble sleeping ever since we moved to this house. She would toss and turn or curl up into a ball under her blanket. Sometimes she would jump up in the middle of the night and turn on the VCR. Cartoons helped to take her mind off all the troubles we had with the move and our parents. And then Olya said she saw that giant flying monster outside her window. She became obsessed with it. Our parents did everything in their power. They tried every trick to get rid of those ridiculous fears, every little trick. Olya refused to sleep alone and didn't believe that the owl was just one of her nightmares. After last night, I was unsure what to make of my sister's words, what to think of it myself. Can nightmares be infectious? That night, I couldn't get a wink of sleep and ended up thinking of what to expect from my new school. There were a couple of days left before the beginning of a new term. My imagination drew long, twisting hallways that led to a classroom full of kids. But all the students behind their desks were simply dark figures, cut out using a template. Circular holes gaped in the middle of their faces, and pairs of eyes blinked inside these holes. It was as if some completely different creatures were looking at me from behind the flat, black silhouettes. Their cruel glares, filled with icy sneers, made me shiver from head to toe. Will I survive here? Won't they gang up on me and beat me down? Stomp on me with their bloodied shoes? The damn school can burn for all I care. I just wished for anything to happen to it. Doesn't really matter what. I didn't want to go there that badly. I didn't want to see people who were just itching to smack me on the head, trip me up, think of a new offensive name for me, worse than the previous one. I felt like the glasses I wore made me an outsider, or some sort of a monster. My gaze slid across the drawings hanging on the walls. I couldn't consider myself a great artist, but Olya begged me to hang them. Drawing was the only thing that made me happy of late. The small circle of friends I had also enjoyed. The small circle of friends I had also enjoyed my paintings, and they promised to call me from time to time. Sometimes I imagine Mom picking up the phone and saying in a cold voice, "You've got the wrong number." Or, "Anton is not around." Anton is not around. I imagined my future classmates lying in their beds, just like me, listening to the howls of invisible werewolves outside their windows. Maybe my new classmates will like me after all. But who would ever like a boy with thick glasses? I mean, my dad used to wear glasses when he was little, and now he's married to the most beautiful woman on the planet, my mom. The house creaked, pressed by the wind. The condo we used to live in, a 9-floor concrete building, buzzed with the neighbor's drill, mumbled with a TV set from behind the wall, cried like a baby from the big family next door. Our current house, though I can't really call it new, was completely different. It was silent and easygoing during the day. Its shadows lay dormant in the corners, on the closet cobwebs, and under the stairs. But they all woke up during the night. Something was watching me from every corner, almost as if the old photos of my diseased family, with their ashen eyes, were hanging on the walls in place of my drawings. The floor was squeaky, rusty drains were moaning, the attic was occupied by noisy drafts. One could think the house was performing some sort of demonic melody. And then I realized I was, in fact, hearing music. It was already playing for a good while. Somewhere at the edge of my perception, I could hear a flute. It was mixed in with the sound of the wind, of the creaking old house, and my thoughts too. I stood up and rushed to the window. I wanted to reassure myself that this music was nothing more than a product of my imagination. It's not like someone is playing it there amidst the cold, snowy night, right? Someone was dancing in the field. Black silhouettes I could barely make out, with the dark forest as their backdrop. They jumped around, basked in moonlight, bumped into piles of snow, rolled around and crawled on all fours. Stories about wolves playing under the moon came to mind, but these were clearly not wolves. They stood upright at times, circled around, holding hands and whipping up snow, disappearing into the shadows for a brief moment and then coming back. Something bizarre was going on. Shadows dancing in the starless abyss made my imagination go wild, making me anxious at the same time. Suddenly, the music had stopped. The dancing shadows froze in place and, I could swear, pierced me with their eyes. One of the silhouettes immediately parted from the bizarre shadow carnival and sprinted across the field with giant leaps. It glided on squeaky snow without leaving any prints until it was devoured by the pitch-black shadow of my house, which became even darker and thicker. My heart was jumping around like the bird inside a cage. I shut the curtains with a swift motion and stepped back inside toward the bed. They saw me. A freezing torrent of fear washed over me. I stood in the middle of a perfectly dark room and listened to some unwanted guest move and scrape around looking for an entrance. The sound moved to the right, then circled around the house. Now my guest should be at the front door. I jumped into the bed and covered myself with the blanket as if it could protect me. The shackles of fear locked my muscles. I remembered the funeral, my grandma lying there, hands crossed on her chest, her facial features sharp like that of a tin doll. Ants running up and down the legs of chairs that held my grandma's casket. I imagined those little creatures climbing up her head and pulling up her eyelids with their tiny legs. Then her wrinkly eyeballs would once again move inside their sockets, and she'd be able to see her grandchildren. I was chanting the spell she taught me throughout the whole procedure. And now, lying under the blanket and listening to squeaks and howls, I was repeating the same words. On the island of Bayan, underneath the blemished sun, in the sea of color blue, stands a cabin made of wood. Evil leave this house must. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Bizarre sounds had disappeared. I cautiously peeked out from under the blanket and saw curtains waving around like a hanged man. And then the night doused me with a new portion of boiling terror. The sound scratched at my eardrums. In reality, something or someone were scratching at the front door, hurriedly clawing at wood, demanding to be let in. The door was shut. Dad had become very cautious recently, so he installed a sturdy lock. I remember him staring at the forest intently, as if he was looking for someone. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. I hugged my knees, placing my chin between them, and drilled the door with my eyes. It was so flimsy and weak before the might of darkness. And then the doorknob twitched, slightly. Then it turned halfway, once, twice, as if the person who tried to enter had no hands. The doorknob tilted once more, and then started clicking violently. My jaw cramped from fear. My wet fingers clutched the blanket. The door creaked and opened. The wind taunted me, moaning inside the tin drains. Now you'll see. The door was wide open. The darkness writhed inside the cavernous mouth of a doorway. To me. It was as if the night itself was calling out to me, flapping its black wings and squeaking with rusty hinges. I was trembling, ensnared by the web of darkness that hung in the corners of my room, waiting for the one who weaved it to come out of the gaping black hole. My abdomen tightened and my chest rose up, ready to exhale a desperate scream. But before I was able to do anything, the darkness asked me.
Ты спишь, Тоша?
Tosha, you asleep? My sister's pale face protruded from the thick shadows. I almost screamed from relief.
Оля, я не сплю.
Olya, I'm not sleeping. Did something happen? Olya frowned and stuck out her lower lip, a clear sign that she was about to cry. It's there again, staring at me. Shoo her away, Tosha, please. I'm so scared. The fear that was tormenting me just a minute ago crawled away and hid somewhere in my stomach. I needed to calm Olya down.
Это был сон, глупая.
It was just a dream, silly. Don't be scared. Dreams don't bite. No one's going to harm you. Olya sobbed. She was trying her best to believe me. But was I sure myself?
У меня есть идея.
I have an idea.
Пойдем к тебе.
Let's go to your room and watch the video. Sleeping Beauty, for example.
Тебе же нравится это?
You like that cartoon, don't you?
Почему спящий
Why does the Sleeping Beauty have a prince and I have this scary bird? That question took me by surprise.
Ладно, давай посмотрим.
All right, let's watch Cinderella. My thoughts became tangled, fuzzy. What was that? What studied me with its eyes while dancing feverishly under the moon? The darkness was clinging to the window, and it couldn't be fooled by Grandma's old chants. It couldn't be satisfied with a feast of lard and long ashen hair.
Тоша, ты идешь?
Tosha, you coming?
Да, сейчас.
Yes, just a minute. Jumpscare. That's why I didn't want to laugh at Olya and her howl. Her howl. That's why I didn't want to laugh at Olya and her owl in the morning. Who could be visiting us here in the middle of nowhere? We don't know anyone around here. So persistent. I felt extremely unsettled just from a silly thought that our morning guests could have come from the woods. I could barely hear voices coming from the front door. My mind was urging me to hide. In the closet, under the table, behind the curtains where Olya always hides. Tosha, come here. I felt like kettleballs were tied to my feet, but still dragged them toward the hallway. A couple of policemen towered over me in the doorway. They smelled like frost and worry. My mom always winced and grumbled the moment she saw patrol cars. Worse than bandits. At the moment, though, she looked somewhat confused.
Здравствуйте.
Hello. The senior officer, who wore a grim expression, nodded.
Тут мальчик вчера потерялся.
A boy had gone missing yesterday. His name's Voya.
Глянь, пожалуйста. Ты его
Look at this, please. Have you seen him? The policeman held out a photograph to me. There was a ginger boy around the age of elementary school, pictured with a wall carpet as the backdrop. He had a striped cat in his hands and wore a wide smile.
Нет.
No, I haven't.
Точно? Посмотри внимательнее.
Are you sure? Look closely.
Где мне его видеть?
Where would I see him? I don't know anyone around here. I barely leave the house.
А может, видел в окно?
Well, maybe you've seen him from the window?
Да, у тебя ведь окна.
That's right. Your windows look straight at the forest, don't they? The window.
Нет, не видел.
No, I haven't seen anything.
Ясно.
I see. He sounded tired, but his eyes, his stare, long and heavy, was full of suspicion. I squirmed unwittingly under the weight of guilt, which his giant shadow cast over me. The policeman finally tore his eyes from me and glanced over the hallway, the stairway and the cracks in the ceiling, which I haven't noticed before for some reason.
Вы, кстати, как на новом месте?
How do you like your new place, by the way? Getting used to it?
Понемногу, только вот
Bit
дочка
by bit.
маленькая по городу
It's just our little daughter misses the city a lot.
Скучает, значит.
Misses the city, huh?
Вас никто не
Have the
беспокоит?
locals been treating you well?
Все хорошо, спасибо.
Yes, everything is all right. Thank you. The policeman pierced through me one more time with his gray eyes. My head started spinning.
Может, вам помочь как-то?
Can I, help you somehow? I asked that in a shaky voice to look like a polite boy and to end this unpleasant conversation sooner.
Я вот стою и думаю,
Now that I think about it,
ты малец на племеша
you
моего.
look just like one of my nephews, little fella.
Шустрый парнишка.
He's a
твоих
witty
лет.
boy around your
С такими же
age.
окулярами.
Wears the same type of goggles. Haha.
Детектив.
Always engrossed in reading those mystery novels.
Когда летом погоди.
Told me he wants to enroll in police school when his family visited this summer.
Как я.
Wanted to help other people, just like me, see? I felt uncomfortable, as if a distant relative and not a police officer stood before me.
Ох, ребята.
You know what?
Сидите-ка вы
Little
лучше
boys
дома.
like you should stay at home. Steer away from trouble. The times have
Жизнь
changed so
сейчас
much.
совсем другая.
Mom interjected in a cold voice.
Мне ли не знать?
You don't say.
Ну да ладно.
Well then.
Ты, Антон, в каком
What
классе?
grade are you in, Anton?
В 6-м.
6th?
Друзей-то на новом
Have you
месте
made
еще
any
не
friends
завел?
here so far?
Пока нет.
Not
Я только
yet.
после каникул в
I'll
школу.
be going to school for the first time after the break.
Тогда вот вам на всякий случай.
Then I'll leave you my number just in
Звоните,
case.
если-
Call me if you have any new info. The policemen were gone along with their shadows, the smell of cheap cologne and the photo of a smiling boy. His face still stood before my eyes. I wondered what it was like for him, being all alone, there. For some reason, I thought of the forest, swaying in the wind. What did his poor parents feel? And what would my parents do if I'd gone missing? Would they cry and thrash around hysterically? Or would they accuse each other like they always do and forget about me eventually?
Мам, а Вова этот в нашем лесу заблудился?
Mom, this is Vova. Did he go missing in our forest?
Выходит, что так. Бедный ребенок.
Seems like it. Poor child. This Vova. I looked out the window, at the road. The police UAZ drove off toward the village. A UAZ is a Soviet and Russian off-road freight passenger car brand, which was produced on the Ulyanovsk car factory. Ulyanovsk. I don't like that glaring sound when you go to the glossary. The officer's nephew came to mind when I was splitting off old paint from the windowsill. I remembered all the teenage mystery novels from the Black Kitty series I've read this summer. Your average boys and girls investigated all sorts of mysteries there. They looked for clues, spied on suspicious people. I was trying to click on that to get a glossary entry for it, but it didn't do it. It just advanced the text. After a set of amazing adventures, bam, solved any complicated case. The Black Kitty series is a series of contemporary Russian original or translated teen mystery books. I mean, I kind of figured that out from the context. They became local celebrities and must have made their parents very proud. I noticed a trail of policemen's footprints that led to the forest. And then it clicked in my head. Why don't I start an investigation of my own? Maybe I'll find that lost boy. And I'll get a reward. Olya will be so happy. And not only Olya, Mom and Dad too. Maybe they'll even forget about the quarrels for a while. Maybe I'll even save us from the D word. I fantasized about buying Olya a Tamagotchi and getting a cassette player and a bunch of tapes for myself, and a whole box of Kinder Surprise. When was the last time our parents bought us any toys? Last autumn, I think. My dad had lost his job at the time. There's that annoying song about it. Accountant. A song by an all-female Soviet pop band by the name of Kombinatsiya, combination, that became widely popular in the early 90s. An annoying song about it. Losing his job, I suppose. I had little to no idea what was the accountant's job like. They count money, I think. Neighbors used to envy us. But nowadays, Mom and Dad barely had money to afford sweets, and Dad would always divide a single chocolate bar between me and Olya. Sometimes I gave her my share, too. No matter how much I wanted to eat sweets, she was still just a pipsqueak. I couldn't wait to go out, looking for clues.
Пойду погуляю.
I'm going outside.
Ага.
Yeah, right.
Чтобы потом
You want the
милиционеры
police to
свои
go around
фотографии
with your
потом
photograph next? With your photograph next?
отдадут. Лес вон какой густой.
The forest is so thick.
А если мальчика
What if the
зарядить
boy
и
got
утащить?
snatched up
Или
by
того
wild
хуже?
animals, or something even worse? Even worse, echoed through the hallway.
Да я рядом буду. В
I
лес
won't
не
go
пойду.
far. I'll stay away from the forest.
Что я тебе сказала?
Did you hear what I said? Or should I repeat myself?
Лучше портфель собери или сотку
Better go
играй.
pack your school bag or play with Olya. The sound of splashing water came from the kitchen. It meant that the argument was over and Mom had the last word. Huh. Well, so we can... Now we have a choice to make. We can go to the kitchen, we can go to the front yard, or we can do something else. But what I want to do is save the game and stop here. Because I've been reading for a long time and now I'm tired. It's interesting, kind of. I enjoy reading it. I don't think it's the best writing I've ever seen. If this were my writing, I would have been making a lot of notes of things to change in the text. There's a lot of some editing that I would do on this text if I were writing it. It's especially when you're reading it out loud. Sometimes it's really easy to find awkward phrasings when you're reading things out loud instead of just looking at them on paper, so to speak. But it's an interesting sort of concept. There's a cross over the door. I guess they're Catholics. Although it doesn't really look like a... I don't know, something different about it. I can't tell. Maybe that's like an Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox sort of thing. I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna stop here. It's okay. It's not the greatest thing I've ever seen. I didn't care for the jump scare, but it did not scare me in the slightest, by the way. If I had had a webcam on, you would have just seen me just staring blankly at the screen like, oh, it's a jump scare. Alright, that's it. Gonna stop now.